The name Mohenjo-Daro is a Sindhi word that roughly translates to Mound of the Dead. This incredibly advanced civilization was built between 2600 and 3000 BC, discovered in 1922. This 5,000-year-old city was home to at least 40,000 people. The city is built upon two artificial mounds, created from the use of mud brick buildings being eroded and destroyed by water over a long period of time. The construction and architecture of the city was incredibly elaborate for its time, with the houses, streets, and public areas being geometrically aligned with each other. Some people even say it seems similar to New York City in terms of layout. They constructed an elaborate drainage system next to all the roads throughout the city that still, to this day, do an exceptionally efficient job at draining floodwaters in the city. A complex system of sewage and drinking water systems run underneath the streets of the city into most homes and public buildings. The sewage was drained into designated soak pits and even had removable covers to access the sewage systems so the people could maintain cleanliness within their systems. And the drinking water ran into most homes and to over 700 unique wells built as cylindrical shafts running several meters down. Meanwhile, in Egypt and Mesopotamia, water was still being fetched from rivers and stored in cisterns. Most homes were complete with running drinking water, a personal bath, and a toilet, while there were also many public toilets and baths throughout the city, such as the bathhouse. The bath was 40 feet by 23 feet, 900 square feet total, complete with a hot air heating system and a steam bath. No bath anywhere rivaled this one until the Roman Empire over 2,000 years later. Mohenjo-Daro also had a massive granary, which had multiple sections to separate different kinds of grains, such as wheat and barley. The building had air ducts designed to dry out the grain. The granary also had its own public bath and toilets. Many wooden wheelbarrows would be used to distribute the grain throughout the city. Mohenjo-Daro was home to many domesticated animals and even played a major role in the domestication of chickens. Over 40,000 Mohenjo-Daro artifacts have been discovered and even turned up in other locations in India, Mesopotamia, and Egypt, proving these people were heavily involved in trade with many civilizations. Objects such as carved wooden figurines, chess pieces, jewelry made with gold, silver, copper, lapis lazuli, carnelian, and turquoise. Lapis lazuli was highly praised in Egypt, much of which can be traced back to Mohenjo-Daro. Artifacts of deities such as the earth goddess Prithvi and statues of a version of Shiva called Pashupati, meaning Lord of the Animals, are proof that these people were Hindu and would have practiced Hinduism in the great monastery at the top of the hill in the center of the city. But the most intriguing aspect of the discovery of this city has yet to be talked about in this video. Upon excavation of Mohenjo-Daro, the remains of the inhabitants were found to riddle the streets, some fallen over on the stairs, embracing loved ones and children, appearing to cower in fear, piles of bodies in the streets. It seems everyone just died suddenly. What happened here?
Gurkha, flying a swift and powerful Vimana, hurled a single projectile charged with the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame as bright as 10,000 suns rose with all its splendor. It was an unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death which reduced to ashes the entire race of the Vrishnis and the Andhakas. The corpses were so burned as to be unrecognizable. Hair and nails fell out, pottery broke without apparent cause, and the birds turned white. After a few hours, all foodstuffs were infected. To escape from this fire, the soldiers threw themselves in streams to wash themselves and their equipment. Dense arrows of flame like a great shower issued forth upon creation, encompassing the enemy. A thick gloom swiftly settled upon the Pandava hosts. All points of the compass were lost in darkness. Fierce wind began to blow. Clouds roared upward, showering dust and gravel. Birds croaked madly. The very elements seemed disturbed. The sun seemed to waver in the heavens. The earth shook, scorched by the terrible violent heat of this weapon. Elephants burst into flame and ran to and fro in a frenzy. Over a vast area, the other animals crumpled to the ground and died. From all points of the compass, the arrows of flame rained continuously and fiercely. This is a passage from the ancient Hindu religious text, the Mahabharata, eerily describing what sounds like modern-day atomic weaponry. Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer himself was very familiar with this ancient Sanskrit text, as he was quoted,
"Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Which is a direct quote from the Mahabharata, or more specifically, the Bhagavad Gita. Oppenheimer was also asked in an interview after the first nuclear bomb was tested in New Mexico. Was that the first time a nuclear bomb was ever detonated? To which his response was rather bone-chilling. He said, "Ancient cities whose brick and stone walls have literally been vitrified, that is fused together, can be found in India, Ireland, Scotland, France, Turkey, and other places. There is no logical explanation for the vitrification of stone forts and cities except from an atomic blast." Vitrified sand and stone can form in three known ways: fulgurite, which is glass created via lightning strikes; tektite, which is formed from the heat generated by meteor strikes; and trinitite, which is the glass that results from nuclear detonations. Trinitite is the glass that can be found in and around Mohenjo-Daro, as well as throughout the Middle East and in the Sahara Desert. The Mahabharata mentions at least 20 different versions of a celestial weapon called the Ostras, each one wielded by or gifted by their respective deities, some being much more stronger than others, and even said to be so versatile as to be dialed up to destroy an entire planet, or dialed down to destroy just a single blade of grass. A believed population of 40,000 people lived in the city at the time of its destruction, and only 37 to 44 bodies have been discovered, all of which were found in the middle and lower class areas toward the bottom of the hill. Not even a cemetery of any kind has been discovered. Whether or not you lean toward the possibility of nuclear devastation or not, we must wonder what happened to the rest of the bodies. Were they vaporized, eaten by animals, or simply yet to be discovered? All bodies found during excavation of Mohenjo-Daro were found in the lower town or middle and lower class areas. No bodies have been found in the citadel or upper class areas where you would expect the final defense of the city to have been made if they were under attack by an army. Also, no arrowheads, swords, spears, or weaponry of any kind have been found within the walls of the city, or any other Harappan city for that matter, indicating they were likely a very peaceful people that felt no need for a military. There is little to no evidence of there being a siege or battle of any kind within the walls of the city, which is one widely believed theory of what could have happened to these people. They say there was an Aryan invasion of the people of this city. Sir John Marshall, the overall director of the Mohenjo-Daro excavations that first revealed the massacre remains, separated the end of the Indus Valley civilization from the time of the Aryan invasion by 2 centuries, proving that it could not have been the Aryan invasion that triggered the demise of the people of Mohenjo-Daro. Marshall also pointed out that the visible buildings belonged to the intermediate period of the city, and that this entire area was buried and built on top of in the late period, all of which does not still exist today. He claims they were likely eroded away, but perhaps the later buildings don't exist anymore because they were blown away by a weapon of mass destruction, while the buildings that still stand had been protected from the blast because they were buried underneath the soil at the time of impact, as Marshall says they would have been at the time of death for all the skeletal remains found within the city limits. A huge question we must ask is, where is the impact site of the weapon of mass destruction? Loner Crater is about 480 miles away from Mohenjo-Daro and has been dated to 52,000 years ago with thermoluminescence dating, which tells us when the sample was last molten. It has about a 1.2 mile diameter and has a max depth of 490 feet. 14 ancient temples stand around the rim of the crater, some dedicated to Lord Rama, because Hindu mythology states that this is the impact location of the Brahmastra, wielded by Lord Rama in the Rig Veda. The water of the lake is both saline and alkaline in nature, the only of its kind on the planet, which has made geologists and NASA scientists question their own theories as to how this is possible. It used to be believed that the crater was formed by volcanic activity, but it's now accepted as a meteor impact crater, although no traces of any meteoric material has ever been found at the site or in the vicinity. I've found some people claiming there have been high radiation levels in and around the crater, but unfortunately could not find any real evidence. While the skeletons of Mohenjo-Daro have been carbon dated to 2500 BC, we must keep in mind that carbon dating involves measuring the amount of radiation left within the bones. When atomic explosions are involved, that makes them seem much younger than they truly are. So if these bodies were hit with a massive amount of radiation but only appear to be 4,000 years old, they may actually be much older. Could these bones truly align with the 52,000-year-old timeline of the Loner Crater? Was this ancient civilization destroyed by a weapon of mass destruction? Let me know what you think in the comments below.